Much. I was also preparing a speech devoted to gender equality issues, but I hope you will understand me. I will speak on the other issue, namely Russia and Ukraine, for the simple reason we in the Russian delegation were so many times approached here with additional questions about what's going on and what's the position of Russia, and this is how I want to use this opportunity to inform you more about that. The general perception of the majority of the delegations here, it was shown yesterday at the vote on the urgent debate, is that Russia has attacked Ukraine. And this theory is being simply bought by so many delegations for the simple reason many believes that Russia is just another edition of the former Soviet Union or the Russian Empire, having nothing but a dream to restore this empire. But this is an absolutely wrong perception. Russia definitely does not want to restore any empires. Russia does not want to introduce a new unipolar world. Russia does not want to rule the world. Russia is a unique country. In my country, we have up to 200 different nationalities and ethnic groups, up to 300 different languages. And take a note, not a single people in Russia, not a single ethnic group in Russia wants to leave Russia, because all of them really live in harmony. They are not discredited in their rights for their language, their religion, or their culture. But it does happen in so many other former Soviet republics, where many peoples and many ethnic groups want to leave these countries because they don't feel themselves comfortable. It has happened in Moldova with Transnistria, it has happened in Georgia with South Ossetia and Abkhazia, and now it has happened in Ukraine, unfortunately. What is the difference? We in Russia has never allowed it, nationalists, which exist in any country, our Russian nationalists, to come into power with the slogan, Russia for Russians, because we are absolutely sure that if they come into power, that will immediately destroy the territorial integrity of our country, and we cannot afford it. It has happened in Ukraine, because Ukrainian nationalists have come into power in 2014 with the slogan, Ukraine for Ukrainians. And by that, they have provoked a civil war, because millions of Ukrainian citizens rejected to recognize an unconstitutional change of power in Ukraine in February 2014, which we consider as a coup d'etat. They wanted to live their own lives. They wanted to have security. They wanted to have granted human rights. They wanted to have their language, their culture, their interpretation of history kept safe and alive. They were deprived that option by the Ukrainian authorities. What did Russia do in this very complicated situation? In 8 years, we were trying to assist Ukraine to restore, to keep its territorial integrity by drafting and then supporting the so-called Minsk agreements. What did Ukraine do? They rejected to fulfill Minsk agreements, it is now officially stated, and they started to shell southeastern regions of Ukraine. During these 8 years, between 2014 and 2022, up to 16,000 people were killed by Ukrainian authorities in southeastern Ukraine. More than 1 million Ukrainian citizens decided to flee, to immigrate to Russia, escaping from the Ukrainian authorities. In all these 8 years, we we were trying to say to Ukrainians and to all other countries, please stop this war. It was a real war, but nobody listened. In all these 8 years, we were trying to find political solutions for the conflict, asking the Ukrainian authorities to start talking to their own citizens. You know, we in Russia have had a similar experience with the Chechen conflict. And initially, we did exactly the same mistakes which are being done now by the Ukrainian authorities. Initially, we considered our own citizens living in Chechnya, all of them, as terrorists, separatists, criminals, and we tried to use military force in order to force them to live in a united Russian state. It never worked. And only because we have changed our strategy, we have started a dialogue with our own citizens living in Chechnya, taking into account the specific situation of this region, their interests, all that stuff. They have managed to solve that conflict by political means. And again, neither Chechnya nor any other ethnic group in Russia wants to separate from Russia. In Ukraine, an opposite situation, because the Ukrainian authorities reject, until now they reject to talk to people living in southeastern parts of the country. And this is why more and more people, millions of people in southeastern parts of Ukraine, take a decision to go away from this country, which does not respect their human rights, their dignity, their religion, their language, and their culture. And this is how up to 4 million people have now voted in 4 referendums, democratically arranged referendums in the 4 regions of now former Ukraine, deciding to join Russia. That was not the decision of Russia. That was a decision by people, millions of people living there. Finalizing, I know that this interpretation of the situation differs from the one which you hear from Ukrainians and their sponsors. There is just one way to learn the truth. Each of them, each of you, is invited to go to the conflict region. You may go to Crimea, you may go to Donetsk, you may go to Lugansk, and you need to talk to people there. And you know perfectly well that Ukraine will be against, for the reason they don't want you to know the truth. But we know the truth, and this is how we act and react in order to protect people, to protect human beings, not to gain any territorial resources out of Ukraine. Thank you very much.
Madam President, honorable members of parliament, ladies and gentlemen. The topics of today's debate is very important, gender equality. As a deputy and party leader who defend gender quotas for our election to local self-governments 2 years ago, I have a lot to say about this. Thanks to that decision, for 2 years now, our local councils have been almost having a post of representative of both genders. That makes local politics less corrupt and more people-oriented. There are 20% of women in the mass convocation of our parliament, still a long way to achieve gender parity, but there were only 2 and 5% of women in the first convocation of our parliament. What I'm trying to say is that gender equality in representative bodies does matter. The society as a whole benefits from equality and diversity. This is the right way to a peaceful world. But let me ask you a rhetorical question. Are we doing everything for peace and stability all over the world right now? My answer is no. Because I'm from Ukraine and right now a terrible war is taking place in my country. The Russian aggression against my country does not leave me and every Ukrainian in this hall and all over the world the opportunity to discuss anything beside it. Today, almost 7 months after the adoption of the emergency resolution 144 of the IPU Assembly on Ukraine, Russia demonstrated complete unwillingness to seek a peaceful solution to the conflict. The Russian escalation must be met with a tough global response. Ukraine calls on the entry world and international organization to immediately condemn the illegal action of the Kremlin and further isolate Russia, as it has shown extremely disrespect to all those who called for diplomatic settlements. Russian parliamentarians who anonymously voted just weeks ago to ratify the annexion of our Ukrainian territories don't deserve to stay in this honorable assembly. Therefore, we call on the IPU to immediately expel the Russian representatives. Let me be clear. Ukraine will not agree to any proposal regarding a temporary truce, demilitarization, disbandment of troops, etc. Russia will only use them to accumulate forces and resume aggression. Instead, we must ensure the complete withdrawal of Russian troops from the sovereign territory of Ukraine. 100% of Ukraine's citizens see this as the only option for ending the war. 6 million refugees inside and outside of Ukraine, food crisis, energy crisis, inflation, and the threat of recession. That's what Russia is doing for the whole world. However, this is not enough for Russia, and now it's conducting nuclear blackmail of the anti-war community. They have long used irresponsible nuclear rhetoric as a means to blackmail and scare partners away from supporting Ukraine. The world should not succumb to Russian blackmail. On the contrary, it's necessary to strengthen support for Ukraine. The Kremlin must understand that its nuclear blackmail is not working. Today, in these difficult moments for Ukraine and the world, each country has a clear choice: to join the support of Ukraine, thus supporting the forces of good and light, or remaining indifferent to our misfortune, continue to throw firewood in the fire of terrible crimes that are going on right now in Ukraine. We are grateful to every country that supports us for every second, every cent, and every word of your support, and we ask to increase cycle of Ukrainian friends. Now, before parliamentarians of more than 100 countries, I want to say in conclusion only one: we can peace and develop only together. We can win peace and develop only together. Thank you for your time and attention.